Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, we discuss my thoughts on episode 2 of the anime series, Astra Lost in Space. And I love this series. As much as I was just poring over the first episode, I was very much glued to the screen all throughout this second one. We finally have the first planetary landfall, apart from, where everyone was supposed to be going in the first episode. For all intents and purposes, it's interesting that it just happens to be habitable, and that there is an ease with which all of this is happening. Whether you call it coincidence, happenstance, lady luck, whatever you want to call it, these characters have been extremely lucky this far out of the gate of what was originally supposed to be like a 5-day thing. We're gonna have to sort of stick it out for 5 days on a planet, and that all went awry with the first energy bubble effect that transported them into space. And here we have another one. And as soon as this one showed up, my breath caught in my throat. I was like, holy shnikes. I didn't know what to expect. And I was actually quite surprised that they managed to outrun it. Now, the thing about all of this scenario is, from the word go, my suspicions were already waving, banner waving inside my mind, because they're transported 5,000 plus light years away from the planet they were supposed to have that 5-day excursion on, and they end up in orbit around a planet which just so happens to have a spaceship in orbit, just sitting there, nobody aboard and everything like that. I never for once believed their finding this vessel was just a random act. I figured it was left there. It was left there for them on purpose, which, if you do the math and you think about it and you contemplate a little bit, that would have to mean that these energy bubbles were being created on purpose. Now, there's a point in the episode where our smart guy, he's opening up the communications console, and he realizes something. He doesn't say anything to the little girl when she comes asking, is something wrong? But something's wrong, the way he reacts and responds. And later in the episode, he brings Kanata off to the side, our captain, and he tells him, somebody pulled this thing apart. Now, the way the show is going, you could suspect our smart guy, the guy who was opening the console. Maybe he did it, and he's trying to pass the buck and make it look like somebody else did it. Because why is he so knowledgeable and everything like that? But I don't distrust him for any reason, especially with his making the little, food taster that comes up, yummy, toward the end. I don't have any reason to suspect him of anything. I don't really have any reason to suspect anybody except for two characters. The quiet girl and the quiet D-bag guy. And yes, I said D-bag because for all intents and purposes, he just acts like a D-bag. Neither of them want to be there, but it's like a not want to be there, unlike all the rest of the characters. All the rest of the characters, like Quittery in this episode, she's like, I want to go home. I don't want to be here anymore. All of them want to go home. All of them don't want to be here anymore. But these two, it's like the girl is doing something that she doesn't want to be a part of. Like maybe it's the boy and the girl, the two quiet ones. The boy, he's like, why did I get sidled up with this? What, I don't want to friggin' do this, but he's doing it. This is I don't know if it's an experimentation, if it's putting these characters to the test, just as a survival thing. It seems like it's going to be something even that much more grandiose, something really highfalutin, sci-fi, tech-based, with these energy orbs and whatever it is. Maybe this is like some sort of weaponry thing, and they want to figure out a way to streamline this event horizon that they can localize and transport people out into space and kill them immediately if they're enemies or something like that. I don't know exactly how far down the rabbit hole this is going to get as far as why these energy orbs that transfer people into orbit or light years away, why that's happening. But I do believe it is artificially made. I believe the fact that we ran into a second one is the proof of that. And the fact that they ran into the spaceship to begin with, that they have found habitable planets, that there is potentially food sources and water sources and things along this travelogue, this sort of itinerary. I believe none of this is left to chance. None of this is happenstance. It was all orchestrated. And I think the two on the inside are the quiet girl and the quiet guy. Again, I feel like the girl, she feels shameful. There was this great end of episode snapshot where our pink-haired bumbling girl, who was in the main focus at the start of the first episode, you know, she's talking about how people are starting to get along a little better, starting to let their hair down a little more. But it's like she's taking a selfie with everybody in the background. A couple of characters are play fighting and everything like that. But most distinctly, I noticed that the quiet girl was not facing the camera. She was very much in a pose of shame, of utter shame. And every time we see her, she seems to be consumed with something greater than just the circumstances. Now, I feel like she's there as an overseer. Maybe she's been given orders that she feels remorseful about, she feels guilty about having to enact. I don't believe she would have been the one to destroy the communications array unless, you know, this was a direct order given to her by whoever the orchestrator is of this scenario. Maybe even being prodded on by our D-bag, our resident quiet D-bag guy, who for some reason reminds me of Jughead Jones from Archie Comics, especially the Riverdale TV show, only much more morose and just sort of nefarious. But again, he seems like a D-bag. He seems like he's kind of there against his will, but he's, you know, I don't know that he's necessarily getting pleasure out of it if he is actually the one involved in doing this. But that's my suspicion. It's those two, because in that snapshot I referenced earlier, she is facing away from the camera in shame. And he is, you see his face, but he's sort of like, his mind is elsewhere. He doesn't want to associate. He's keeping everyone at an arm's length. And it just seems cold and clinical. And so in both of their estimations, you know, there is this cold detachment. With her, it seems to be a level of shame, like, I don't want to be doing this. I don't want to be here. These are good human beings. They're nice people. I don't want to hurt them. I don't want to put them through this. This is all speculation on my part, but that is the vibe I get from her character in the way they physically show her. You know, she's sitting outside the ship with our resident D-bag while everyone's out foraging in the forest. And she's got, like, her arms around her legs, you know, kind of sitting up against her chest in, like, a very evasive sort of position. And who is she sitting with? Our quiet D-bag, who's sitting there kind of aloof, but he's got that grimace on his face. Like, clock's ticking. Let's get to the next time we're going to mess with these characters already. You know, that kind of thing. Now, I'm going to be shocked and surprised if it's anyone else at this juncture. We're only 2 episodes in, I know. But part of what I love about this show is not only this now, you know, ingrained mystery scenario. Who is behind this? Because someone has to be. Because this has to be artificially created. It has to have been orchestrated from the word go. But beyond that, I love the playful, lighthearted characterizations of most of the rest of the characters. I really loved how much as Kanata was, you know, toward the middle and second half of the first episode, we have Quittery and her little sister a little bit more in focus in this episode. We learn a little bit more about them. The little sister is adopted, and there was some rivalry and you know, distaste on Quittery's part about that, because her mother's already, you know, she doesn't really get along with her mother. She's never been embraced or told that she was loved, but I love that we have a character arc for her in this episode where she goes from, like, the last person she wants to ever have to deal with again is her little adoptive sister, and by the end she's actually able to recoil and snap to and realize how precious her little sister is to her, how much this little girl is consumed with her. Why was she up on that tree? She was trying to get the little star-shaped plant to match the one on her headband. She loves her. She idolizes her. She thinks the sun rises and sets on Quittery. This little girl. And it's just the characterization there, the depth of character, that relatability, especially if you're a sibling. it was beautiful to me. And this was perfectly contrasted and juxtaposed to all the more lighthearted, adventure sort of side of this Indiana Jones side of this, Lost in Space side of this, where it's a new planet. We've made planetfall. We have to find food, and it's fun, and you have all this life, and so far, none of it's really that threatening, except for the giant, like, pterodactyl things in the sky. Turgons, or whatever they called them. And but I love, not only that, the continuation, as somebody pointed out to me in the comments on my episode 1 discussion video, the alternative title for this is Kanata no Astra. Kanata, his name is in the title. Our captain, our resident captain, which sort of reaches a pseudo-official status by the end of this episode because of his crazy selflessness. He was a decathlete. He jumps, he frog hops along these, like, elasticized treetops to save the little girl and everything. It was insane. But it carries on from some of my favorite aspects, the revelatory aspects from episode 1, to do with his background, his estrangement with his own father, which is very much similar to that of Quittery and whatever like that with her mother. I'm getting Darling in the Franxx feelings and vibes from this in a way. Like here's a group of youths who are being put to the test, challenged to see if they can Adam and Eve it, for all intents and purposes, for lack of a better term, survive together, even though they have similarities, but at the same time they're from different backgrounds and walks of life, and they don't quite get along, and it's like they're butting heads. They're kind of like Odd Couple-esque, but at the same time there is an undercurrent of an aspect where they have relatable things about them. Our smart dude, again, the one who opened the communications array and figured out somebody sabotaged it. He has this passion for space exploration, just like Kanata does. He's the first one who's like, I would be proud to serve aboard your ship, sir, if you ever get one, if we survive this. And that turn, you'll notice, again, the two quiet ones aren't saying anything about how much or not they trust Kanata as a captain, or in a leadership capacity and all this kind of stuff. But those revelations about Kanata, I mean, it's intriguing to me that his name is in the alternate title and that he is somewhat more in focus than the others. And learning all about how his mentor, his teacher, the one who ingrained that sense of space exploration, the wonder, the adventure of that. This was something he could utilize, that back catalog of decathlon training and physical training. These are things that are a necessity for, Air Force pilots who later are sort of pseudo upgraded to become part of the space program and the history of NASA and all that kind of stuff. So he needs the physicality. I don't know if all of the characters meet those requirements necessarily. Surely they must have met some requirements to some degree to have gone on this class, trip, or at least what was supposed to be a class trip, the 5-day thing. But Kanata, he had this mentor. The mentor died, and out of this tragedy was born this heartened resolve in Kanata that he's courageous when nobody else might actually be able to be. He saved the little girl. He saved our bumbling airhead in episode 1, who has a really weird cackling laugh by the end of the episode, I might add, when they get the meat from the big Turgon or whatever the hell they called it. But so right then and there, it's right there for you on the plate, much as all that Turgon meat. There is a meat and potatoes to this series. There's this grand mystery. There's this lighthearted, fun and engaging aspect to the characters, but there's also this gravitas, this depth of character from Kanata to Quittery. And I'm sure we're going to learn more about the other characters as we go on, as well as this mystery. And while I feel like I've already pinpointed our two quiet ones as being potentially responsible for all of this, there's every opportunity, and I'm going to keep myself open to the fact that maybe that's a red herring. Maybe there's more going on. Maybe it's one of these more likable characters, and they have a dark history. or something. Maybe one of these characters is so estranged from their parent, or parents or guardians or whatever, you know, they don't want to go home. They want anything but to ever have to return home again. And so they're sabotaging things along the way because they want to stay in this space and this time for as long as possible. You never know. But that's going to be immensely, you know, by order of magnitude, an aspect of how awesome sauce this show is going to be wondering and watching now every character's interactions, every character's solo individual actions, and trying to piece it together as we move along, step by step along this journey. And I can't wait. I can't wait to see how it all unfolds. So I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you thought of episode 2 of Kanata no Astra, or Astra Lost in Space. If you've seen it as well, why the hell did you watch this video if you haven't? But love it or hate it, anything goes in the comments below. And if you happen to enjoy this video and like to consider supporting my channel, please have a look at my PayPal support link posted both in the description as well as the comments below. It affords you opportunities very much akin to Patreon, where you can set up a monthly recurring contribution, a one-time only kind of thing. You can send me a personal message with any contribution you send my way, requesting topics I may discuss in the future, ask for shoutouts, or make recommendations of things I may check out and would inevitably shout you out down the line if I happen to discuss. And anything you saw fit to send my way would be 2 thumbs up for me in securing my longevity on YouTube for the foreseeable future, and just be very much appreciated. But yeah, until the next one, that'll be pretty much it for me on this. Hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.